Hello everyone, welcome you all to Samiksha IAS Academy. Somewhere I read a Hindi quote saying that कोस कोस पर पानी, चार कोस पर बानी. In other words, if you translate that into English, it is saying that for every few kilometers there is a change of water, for every 4 kilometers there is a change of speech. So I feel this best summarizes the diversity of the country. In a country like India, where we have huge geographical extent and there is a huge diversity among the people, in this context, expecting unity and eventually trying for national integration is always a challenge. Since independence, we are facing this challenge. Understood? In one or the other way, be it in the north, be it in the south, right? Be it in the northeast, in one or the other parts of the country, we are seeing some kind of separatist tendencies. I think by now you got to know why we are discussing this particular thing right now, right? You might be seeing here just few days back, Muiva, the one who is still responsible and fighting for this concept called as Greater Naga Limb, right? He went to his hometown. There he spoke about Naga sovereignty demand. Their main point is not just they just want to continue as a separate state. They want to integrate all the parts where the Naga people have their presence and they have a sovereign demand, that is, sometimes we can also think it like a separate country. But this demand is not new. It started long back. Understood that. Why this demand? Right? Even after signing of this accord way back in 2015, still, why this demand is continuing? For this to understand, I feel we must know a little of the history of Nagaland, right? If we see the map here, you can see the northeast and especially the Nagaland. This is the current Nagaland, the state of Nagaland. But the people like Muiva and Isaac, the one who died earlier, right? Their aspiration is the greater Naga limb. This greater Naga limb is not just Nagaland and surrounding, it is also having its like extending up to Myanmar. See, parts of Manipur, parts of Assam, the whole Nagaland, right, and parts of Myanmar. This combined where we have the presence of the Naga population, though they have multiple subsets among them, but they have this aspiration called as Greater Nagaland or Naga Limb. Understood? For this, these people are fighting. What is the reason for this? Why this fight? For this to understand, you know a little more history of this particular issue. I think you all know way back in 1918, they formed a club named as Naga Club. Okay. In 1918, this club formed. You know, what can be the reason for this? People from Nagaland, that time, this Naga tribe, they participated in World War II on behalf of British. Okay. British took them to Europe. They observed the emergence of nationalism in Europe on the basis of language, on the basis of culture. I think you all know most of the European countries got separated that time on the basis of language, be it Germany, be it France, be it Italy, right? Be it UK. Understood. These people also want to mimic here. The result was this Naga Club. It went up to such an extent that in the year 1947, there is an individual named A.Z. Pizzo. Before India got independence on 15th August 1947, on 14th itself, he declared independence for Nagas. Of course, that couldn't fructify like, and he couldn't be successful in that. Eventually, he flew away to UK. Understood. But here we need to understand the greater perspective, that is the demand. This eventually compelled the government to create a separate Naga land in 1963. Initially it was not the case when it comes to Northeast. Initially, central government thought that to keep in the context of administration, to keep a smooth flow of administration, it want to keep the whole Northeast under single unit, especially headquartered at Assam. But as you know, on one side there is a huge diversity in the Northeast. Why? Because the geography, hilly areas. In hilly area, because if you have a plain area, there you can expect some kind of integration because there will be huge inflow and outflow of people. But in the case of hilly areas, this movement is quite difficult. So that's why inherently there will be isolation. Cultural sensitivities will be quite high. Even if you see our historic epics like Ramayana, Mahabharatas, they could not able to reach up to there. Even later, the Islamic like when there happens to be expansion of Islam, even that could not able to reach Northeast, most part of the Northeast. Even initial Britishers were quite reluctant to have their presence in Northeast. But however, when they got to know that they can cultivate tea, with the coming up of tea, their economic interest got increased. Eventually, they started spreading over there. Along with them, Christian missionaries came up. This is one of the fundamental reasons why we can see spread of Christianity in the Northeast. So that's why the diversity is quite high in Northeast. In initial, government tried to keep the whole Northeast on the single administrative unit. It could not succeed. We have seen multiple divisions, and one such fight was fought by this Naga people. And eventually, in 1963, the government created a separate Nagaland state. Still, the problem did not solve. Still, because this Nagaland state, how it got created like this. Right. But people, here also we have presence of Nagas. Here also we have presence of Nagas. Even here, this place, this is in Myanmar. Here also we have presence of Nagas. So continuously, one or the other splintered groups, they are fighting they're fighting against the government. Right. So in this context, after 1963, because of this continuous fighting, government thought we will have an accord with these groups. What we call this accord famously as the Shillong Accord. This accord is called as Shillong Accord. However, still they could not able to solve the problem. If they are siding with one group, another group is coming and they are fighting for a separatist cause. In this way, the present person, what we call right now him as Muiva, this individual along with another individual called Isaac, in 1980, they started a separatist group called as NSCN, National Socialist Council of Nagaland. This they started, right? Here we have presence of people from Naga people from Myanmar, from Nagaland, even from Manipur, Nagaland, Myanmar. They all combinedly started this group, separatist group, right? It was an insurgent group that time. Later, in 88, it got split into two divisions: NSCN IM and NSCN K. K means Kaplan. Okay. Here, Isaac, Muiva. Isaac and Muiva. Right. So this Kaplan, this individual actually controls the Myanmar portion of Nagaland, Naga people. So these people, this NSCN IM, they are from the Indian side. In that, especially this Muiva, he is from this Manipur region. So Isaac from the current Nagaland. Understood this. So in this way, first in 1980 they formed an insurgent group. Continuously they are fighting with the government. In 1888 they have seen a split, but still we could not able to solve the problem. Eventually in 1997, ceasefire. The government agreed with the government and the NSCN IM. They both agreed for a ceasefire. Then they started coming into the mainstream politics. However, still they could not able to stop their greater Nagaland demand. This eventually made the government to come up with an agreement in the year 2015. What we call that as framework agreement, also called as Naga Accord. What we presently call as Accord, Naga Accord, Naga Accord. This is the one. But government did not disclose the details. That means what they have signed, both NSCN IM and the government, union government combined. They didn't disclose. After that, even till late, we couldn't see much details about it. But indirectly, most people say government agreed to most of the demands of these people. But as the demands are not being fulfilled, once again, this particular group, this individual is almost close to 90 years now. But still, he want to fight for these people. He want to fight for the great Nagaland. Understood? That's the reason, once again, this particular issue, it came in the news. Right? Similarly, there are other groups. But this group, at one point, quite ferocious insurgent group, later agreed for the ceasefire. But once again, as the talks are not becoming fruitful, so this particular separatist tendency once again becoming resurfaced. This we must need to take care. Along with this, we must also understand how can we solve this problem. As you all know, in the country like India with huge diversity, as of now, we just got politically integrated. Socio-economic integration yet to happen. Socio-economic integration means what? Feeling the sense of belongingness. Right? There can be cultural connection. Eventually, with respect to the economy, that plays very crucial role. Economic connection means here taking care of employment opportunities of the people, building infrastructure so that there can be better connectivity. Until unless the socio-economic integration happens, as said by Ambedkar, right? Just having a political integration without socio-economic integration, continuing the national unity in the long run is quite difficult. That's why, to conclude, I want to quote Rabindranath Tagore. For Tagore, the unity of India must come from within, not from outside. For this to happen, definitely, we all must strive for this socio-economic integration along with political integration. Just conducting elections is not sufficient. We must be integrated socially and economically. For that, the governments and the civil society, we all must come together and we must not allow the country to fight for this kind of separatism in the coming future. All right. Thank you.